So it's been a while since I shot and did one of these videos, and normally I sit at my desk and shoot facing that way, but I have that rack that's right there that's always full of stuff and it looks super messy and I feel like it's super distracting in the background. I don't know. So I'm going to try shooting the video from I'm over on my bed. We'll see if maybe a more neutral background works better. Ignore my stuffies. Or, I mean, you can look at my stuffies all you want. I have a ton of stuffed animals on my bed. No shame. So I promised weeks and weeks ago, like easily 2 or 3 months ago, that I was gonna do a video ranking Fallout 4 companions. So that's what this video is gonna be, and I'm gonna hurry up and I'm gonna do some makeup because I have to do a video right after this. So for those who do not know me, I am Jack Roja. I am a cosplayer and event promoter. Well, I mean, it's not that official, but event host from Tampa, Florida. And I do really a bunch of different videos. I don't really have a thing. I probably should pick a shtick, but I don't have one. So I usually just post about stuff that interests me, or I post rants, or I post videos with questions that people ask me. And really, I just like to have fun with it. So I'm not great at makeup. I'm not even good at makeup. It's actually, I do makeup on these videos more to be comical than anything. But I am gonna try to not do terrible makeup as I talk about all these things. So, Fallout 4. I have a love-hate relationship with Fallout 4. If you watched my rant video, you know that I do have, I didn't even type out my notes. My notes are just written on a notebook. I love Fallout 4, but I have some problems with it. Some are big problems, some are small problems. I do kind of bitch about how much I feel Fallout 4 rests on Fallout 3. Like, yeah, okay, the story is solid, and you can... I'm going for very dramatic. No, I'm not going for pretty. Look, I'm going for very dramatic. A lot of Fallout 3... or a lot of Fallout 4 references Fallout 3 to me, so like, oh, we have Liberty Prime again. Oh, fun. And then we have characters that are references to Fallout 3. So we have like Dr. Madison Lee. We have McCready. You get the idea. And it just kind of annoys me because I feel like if you didn't play Fallout 3, that so meeting McCready and seeing Liberty Prime don't have the same effect that they would on someone who has played Fallout 3. Don't get me wrong, I do love Fallout 4. I had to get used to it, kind of. I had a lot of complaints off the bat. Like, I hate the fact that everything moves while you're in vents. That was a nice little surprise the first time I fought that Deathclaw. Like that early Deathclaw. I was like, why is this still moving? This isn't cool. Of course, Fallout 4's Deathclaws are a lot more manageable than Fallout 3. Fallout 3, if the thing even sees you, you're dead. But anyway, so I do like that we have more complex companions and that they're not based on karma. So in Fallout 3, you could only have certain people follow you and it depended on your behavior, which is fine. Somebody who is aligned with maybe bad karma isn't necessarily somebody that I personally want to follow. I'm one of those people who plays these games because I get to be the good guy, I get to help people and make lots of money, and you get the idea. Whereas Fallout 4, each companion has their own dislikes and likes, their own comments on things around you. So the categories that I'm doing for this video are slightly different than the ones I did for Dragon Age. Dragon Age Inquisition, I think I had 7 categories. I only did 5 for this. And the 5 categories that I'm going to be ranking all these characters in are, let me get the better phrasing. It's going to be background, which includes their recruitment, affinity / romance, basically how I rank their friendship and or relationship, because we do have relationships in this game, unlike Fallout 3 and unlike New Vegas. Which is weird because earlier Fallout games had relationships, but whatever. Travel banter. Travel banter is just a category that I like for any game. Like when I do the Mass Effect companion video, I'm probably going to do travel banter for them too. The next category that I'm going to rate them on is combat AI, because I feel like, I feel like so much, but I feel like you can have a well-written character and they suck in combat. Or you can have somebody who is really good in combat, really good to schlep around with you, but maybe they aren't the most interesting. You don't really want to talk to them, you don't really want to help them, but, you know, they fight good. And then the last category is complicated, because of course. And that one is personal mission / issue. And the reason why I had to make it specifically / issue is because not all of these characters have personal missions, which kind of makes me sad. I think I'm just spoiled from other games that if there's a character that you care about, they have something that they want you to do for them or they need you to do for them, and that plays into who they are as a character. And we don't have that with some of these characters, and that really is kind of a detriment to some of them. And I do want to say, because it's probably the first thing at least 3 of you have thought of, and Dogmeat is not going to be included on this video solely because he is a dog and he loves you regardless of what you do. You can be a total asshole, you can be nice, you can be neutral, and Dogmeat is going to love you because he's a dog. And you are you. So he doesn't really have, half of these categories don't even apply to him. Yeah, only one of these really applies to him, so he's not going to be a part of that. So the companions that are going to be included in this video are from the base game only. So I'm not bringing in Longfellow, I'm not bringing in, you know, Porter, whatever his name is. We're not bringing in any of them. So we're only doing Kate, Codsworth, Kiri, Dance, Deacon, Hancock, McCready, Nick Valentine, Piper, Preston, Strong, and X688. I almost didn't include X688 because he is a pain in the ass, and I realized that if I'm going to include some of the other ones who are a pain in the ass, he needed to come in with the territory. So he's going to be held up to the same categories, even though he's kind of a different case. And like I said, they're going to be rated on background, affinity, travel banter, combat AI, and personal mission. And now these notes are all so scribbled. So I'm going to be looking down a lot because I didn't type this out. It's been, the last couple of weeks have been insane. I would say, like, yeah, it's been like a month at this point that's been insane. So bear with me, please. So first up, and I'm going to go straight in order. I'm going to go by character and break down roughly why I rated everybody the way that I did. So right into Kate, background, recruitment. So I'm not like super here or there about her recruitment. I do kind of think it's neat that you have to kill a whole bunch of raiders and then you can recruit her, because you just killed her money source. I know if I were in that position, I would not be super excited about going with that person. And her accent drives me crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And she's kind of like a stereotypical, like, oh, Irish druggie. So I wasn't super impressed with her. So her background gets a 6. Oh, and this is a scale of 1 to 10 for each video. So they're gonna get anywhere from 0 to 50 as their score. And trust me, nobody got 50. Nobody got 50. Nobody got 50. Her friendship, romance. So friendship, affinity. She's kind of interesting because with her personal mission, she doesn't kind of change. She completely changes gears. So a lot of things like stealing, she's okay with stealing. She's one of the few characters okay with stealing. That doesn't change after her personal mission. The base stuff is the same. Where it flip-flops is where before her mission, she's super okay. She approves of drug use, drinking, chem use, whatever you want to call it, is drug use. And then after her mission, once she gets clean, she's not only against the stuff, but she's kind of super judgy against the stuff. Like, I understand going from being super all about it to not being into it. I feel like that would be a necessary change, is her attitude, but she's so like nasty about it, super judgy, and it's just kind of hypocritical because I just don't think she should be judgy like that. I feel like that was maybe an oversight on their part, or they just didn't care. I don't know. So that got her a 6. Travel banter is not really a strong suit either. Like I said, I hate her accent a lot. It doesn't make any sense. It's been 200 years since the bombs dropped. Why do you still have like the thickest Irish accent on the planet? Thicker than even some people who live in actual Ireland. And I'm pretty sure her voice actress is Scottish. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but she doesn't really have a lot to say. There's not really a lot of substance in what she has to say. I do like that they made her afraid of spiders, because that's something they didn't have to add on to her at all. And little stuff like that is what makes these characters more relatable. So for her travel banter, I gave her another 6. Combat AI, though. That's where the game starts turning around for Kate. I resisted using Kate for a long time, so I didn't realize until the last year or so where I've forced myself to use other characters more. She is kind of a beast. She's good with multiple weapons. She will pick up a minigun and fuck up a wall of super mutants as good as anybody else. She's good with shotguns, bats. Her combat AI is Harley Quinn, I just realized. Okay, well, my rating still stands. I give her an 8 because she is useful fighting. Her personal mission is interesting enough. It's not my favorite, but I mean, not everybody's gonna be, not everybody can be the greatest character ever. And I think it was nice to take this like caricature of an Irish druggy character and then have her get clean. So I did give her personal stuff a score of 7. All right, straight into Codsworth. Codsworth is the Mr. Handy that you have pre-war. He's, you get him, I guess, to help around the house because you have a new baby, regardless of whether you're female soul or male soul. So really his background is just that he belongs to you. That's it. He just belongs to you. And the 210 years that you've been in the vault, he's been trying to keep the house clean. He even talks about, do you know how hard it is to polish rust? He's been polishing rust for 210 years. That's his background. That's it. It's not super, super interesting. I don't know what I would have done differently to make him more interesting, but there he is. I gave him a 4 for background. Affinity. I hate the fact he starts out tolerating you. Literally own him. And he talks about how great it is. And he's so happy to see you. But he starts out tolerating you. And I think that just annoys the shit out of me. So, 6. I mean, if you play what most people would consider a good character, he's a good companion for that, but he's not the best, so 6. Travel chat is better in the beginning, I think, but he's constantly trying to get you to get somebody else. Like, he's like, oh, if you want to take me along, and then you take him along, and he's like, hey, so want to take somebody else? And I don't know, that also annoys the shit out of me. But the specific stuff that he says about people is definitely, there's kind of a disconnect, because you're, running around post-apocalyptic Boston, and he's a British butler when it comes down to it. So little comments that he makes make me laugh. And so for that, I went ahead and I bumped him up, and I gave him a 7. He's entertaining enough for a little bit. Combat AI, he actually is pretty... I tried to play different this current play than previous plays. Like, I romanced somebody differently, and I tried to take the companions more each, and he actually is kind of ruthless. He sometimes has somebody hacked up into pieces before I've even drawn my weapon. So he's pretty efficient, I would say, combat AI. So I did give him an 8. And he doesn't have personal anything besides being a robot. So I give him a 2 for that. It's one of those days. Next up is Kiri. I could talk about Kiri for days. But Kiri is the Miss Nanny robot that you find in Vault 81 with the remains of the science team. Vault 81, of course, being the 2-sided vault, the side with the residents and the side with the science team that was there to experiment on those residents. And of course the overseer shut them down. She didn't kill them, she locked them in their side of the vault, and they kept working on their project. And of course Kiri was part of the team, and she continued to work on the project even after they died. So she basically is, as far as I'm concerned, primarily the one responsible for the Vault 81 cure. And I think it's kind of interesting to see her get screwed over by Vault Tech and still be like this crazed, like, need for knowledge life form as a robot, which is, we're gonna talk about that later. So honestly, I gave her an 8 for her background. That might have been a little bit generous, but I think it's a great background considering how bland some of the other ones are. Affinity, she just wants to see everything. Like, she's so inquisitive, and she wants to see everything, and she comments on things and has really good insights. And it's easy, I think it's pretty easy to make her happy. I did, though, I counted up everyone's likes versus dislikes. And she actually technically dislikes more than she likes, but the stuff that she dislikes is like being selfish and chem addiction and murder and accepting a serial killer's gift. But then she also, like, she doesn't like if you help the railroad, and she doesn't like if you help the Institute, but she does like if you like it if you help the Brotherhood of Steel. I don't, it's, if you want to get on Kiri's good side, I think it's easy enough to figure out what she'll like and what she will not like. So for her affinity, I gave her a 7. Travel Banter is a lot more interesting when she's a robot. She has a lot of like scientific-ish input on things, people, places, actions. But then when she's human Kiri, I don't know, it becomes way less interesting, and she talks more about being human. Like, the stupid line about like forgetting to breathe. Like, I understand for her that's a big deal, but I don't think they gave her enough interesting lines really for her to be great banter wise. So I gave her a 6 because robot Kiri is fine. Combat AI. Her combat AI infuriates me because it doesn't change. it does not change from robot to person. Even if you give her guns, you got to remember that Kiri is a Miss Nanny. She's a robot. She's like Codsworth. So everything is melee. She will charge up to somebody and she will strike them with the amazing gun that you just gave her. And her hit points are way, way higher too. Like I think her hit points, she has like, Robot Kiri has the highest hit points. Like even more so than Dance with Power Armor or Strong. She has the most. But then when you make her squishy and she's not, she sucks. She sucks basically. So for combat AI, I give her a 5. Her personal stuff is really just, oh, I want to be human. So you go to talk to Glory, the synth, and I guess she has a friend that's dearly departed. So you get to put Kiri inside this synth's body. And it's almost like a weird Pinocchio type story to, I don't know. 6. I'll give her 6 for that. Oh boy. So next up, if you've done the alphabetized process of elimination, you know that next up is Paladin Dance, aka M797. So Dance, I think, is one of the more complicated characters in this game. Whether you like him or not, he is complicated. They made him incredibly complicated. And I am a sucker for complicated characters, whether they're done well or not. I'm just a sucker for a well-written character. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I don't know where my eyebrows sent. There it is. Don't judge me. I can't do eyebrows. I've never been able to do eyebrows. So, Jesus Christmas. So, I never really paid much attention to Dance before this playthrough. Like I said, before I did this video, I wanted to be a little bit better versed in some of these characters instead of, like, previous to this playthrough, I played a lot of games where I would recruit all of the characters and I would travel with them just enough to trigger their personal missions for the experience. And then I would throw them in Sanctuary Hills and they would live there and call it a day. Like, pretty straightforward. Just call it a day. And that doesn't make an interesting video. I mean, it's barely interesting as it is. And so I started schlepping Dance around with me a lot. And the more you travel with him, of course, the more he talks. Just like any character in any of these games. Of course, the more you talk to them, the more they talk. The more you do for them, the more they talk. And we find out that Paladin Dance also, McCready is not the only character that has a tie to the Capital Wasteland. Paladin Dance owned a junk shop, he sold junk at Rivet City. And then when the Brotherhood of Steel came around, he saw it as a valuable opportunity to get the fuck out of the wasteland, which I think a lot of people can relate to. You know, you grow up and you just want out of your hometown, wherever it is, just to get away, start fresh. So he starts fresh, him and his friend, and everything's great. And then, long story short, his friend gets taken captive by a bunch of super mutants. And the super mutants do terrible things to all of them. They turn Cutler into a super mutant and Dance has to put him down. And when we find this out, we realize why he has so much vitriol towards the super mutants. And honestly, you don't really need an excuse to hate the super mutants, but when you talk to him about this and you're like, okay, this is where that whole like hateful persona that everybody hates comes from, and we get to know Dance a little bit better. I want no judgment for my eyebrow situation. I've never been able to do eyebrows. I still can't. I wish there would be a trend that would pop up where we just all shave our eyebrows off and don't have them. Can we do that? So yeah, so Dance's background, I gave him an 8 for his background, I think. Yes. Affinity, I tallied up for all of the characters major likes and major dislikes. And most of the characters, their balance is within like 4 or 5 on either side. So most of them do not like or dislike more than 5 more things than the other category. Dance, however, dislikes twice as many things as he likes. Like, wow, it baffles me that he somehow is not the hardest one to get to max affinity. Apparently strong is considered to be the hardest one to get max affinity, but we'll talk about strong later. And I feel he kind of reminds me of Fenris in the fact from Dragon Age 2 of you have to be very careful where you take him and what you say. And that's kind of annoying. But at the same time, I think if you try to put yourself in the mindset of where Dance is, it's actually pretty easy to figure out what he's gonna like and what he's not gonna like. Like, it's simple. It's not... He likes when you help the Brotherhood of Steel. He likes when you help the Minutemen because he thinks they're noble. He doesn't like when you use chems. He doesn't like when you eat people. He doesn't like when you help ghouls. He doesn't like if you say bad things about synths after his little personal mission. He doesn't like when you're nice to ghouls. He doesn't like it when you're mean. Like, he's pretty... You could probably figure out a list of likes and dislikes of Dance without having to look them up. And I feel like for at least that consistency, he gets a 7 for affinity. Travel Banter. It's interesting, but also disappointing. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I wish he had more things to say than he does. He does have a lot of good, he weighs in a lot about tactical stuff. He'll be like, oh, we're at a disadvantage here. We need to get somewhere where we're not in direct light, stuff like that. So he does put up a little bit as far as that goes. So I give him a 7 for combat, for travel banter. Combat AI, he's a beast. Obviously, he's in power armor, so he can take a lot more damage than some of the other characters before he needs a stim pack. And he can carry a lot also. So, long story. There's not really even a long story there. I gave him an 8 for combat AI. His personal stuff is, I believe, the official term, the scientific dictionary term is yikes on bikes. Yikes on bikes. So you follow the Brotherhood of Steel quest line, and you do have to be careful with one part of it, or else you fuck up and you piss everybody off. And they don't tell you, like, it just happens. Most of the time it'll be like, oh, proceeding in this way will make you an enemy of X faction. It doesn't do that for this. But if you slow down and take it like one thing at a time, you can actually go pretty far with the Brotherhood of Steel questline without pissing people off. But what happens, and this is where it threw me, everything's going great, and it's after you meet Liberty Prime, after you see Liberty Prime, and Proctor Ingram, not Ingram, the gal, I'm totally brain farting on her name and I'm not looking it up. I'm too far into this video. She wants you to, no, it is Ingram. I don't know. She wants you to go to this silo, basically, in the glowing sea and get mini nukes for Liberty Prime to use. Because Liberty Prime is, I don't want to say useless, but Liberty Prime is useless without ammo. So you go and do that, and everything's great, and you go with Paladin Dance, and everything's great, yeah! And then you go to talk to Elder Maxon, and Elder Maxon freaks the fuck out on you. He's like, is there anything you want to tell me? You look really nice in that coat today. Like, he's super mad at you. And that's when you find out that the information that you brought back with you from the Institute, they have made some identifications with some synths that the data says have escaped from the Institute, and lo and behold, one of them is a perfect match for Dance. And the designation of that synth is M797. Well, this is somebody who hates everything non-human. He hates synths, he hates ghouls, he hates super mutants, and lo and behold, he's a synth. And Scribe Halem helps him get out, and you have to talk him off. You have to tug him off the ledge, basically, because Maxim wants you to kill him, and I don't like killing people I don't have to kill. But of course, the Kool-Aid is so strong with Dance that he's like, nope, I can't be the exception. Maxim says you have to kill me, so you have to kill me, because I'm a good Boy Scout. Like, and if you fail the speech check, you will have to kill him. So that's one of those things. I knew that, fortunately. I remembered that in time. So I saved right before, and I just kept reloading until the speech check worked. So I talked him out of it. Maxon gets mad, blah, blah, blah. As far as anyone's concerned, you were executed and your remains were incinerated. Yeah, so that's just... I give him 8 for personal stuff. 8. So, next is my boy Deacon. Oh, Deacon. So I love Deacon. I also hate Deacon. And of course, all of you who've played this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that I love Deacon, but I also hate him. Deacon is, of course, associated with the Railroad. The Railroad, if you haven't played this game, is a reference to the Underground Railroad. They help synths escape from the Institute. They give them mind wipes and face swaps and everything like that, and then help them escape the Commonwealth and become human, more or less. And Deacon is one of the higher ups. That mistake that I told you about in the dance section of the video, where if you fuck up, it doesn't tell you, but you fuck up. Deacon is one of the people that you have to kill if you accidentally trigger that, or if you deliberately trigger that. Maybe you're going for trophies and you have to do that ending. But yeah, so Deacon is a higher up for the Railroad, like top 3 kind of. And what's really interesting, we're gonna go into I'm gonna go straight into background / recruitment, because as you may have noticed, you probably didn't notice your first playthrough, but you may have noticed your second playthrough. Deacon pops up places. Like, he'll just randomly be somewhere, and Deacon will be there. The first time I noticed him, it was at, it was in Good Neighbor, actually. He hangs out outside of Daisy's shop. He also hangs out in the memory den. I'm trying to think of, I'll see him at random settlement. Like, he just pops up. Oh, he's been at Diamond City. If you haven't noticed him before and you play it again, keep an eye out. He follows you everywhere after a certain point. I don't know what point it is that you have to get to for him to follow you, but he's everywhere. So I consider that part of his background. And we don't really know a lot about Deacon's background because he is a pathological liar. He lies about everything. He gives you a fake recall code and tries to trick you into using it. Like, he's kind of a tool. He's not a great person. But he does, usually you can call him on his shit. He's like, you got me. But he does not falter when he talks about his background with his synth girlfriend and how he used to be a synth killer. Ran with the University Point death clause. And he used to kill synths. He used to pick on them and kill them. And then he found out his girlfriend was a synth, and I guess his life was changed. And it's the only story that he tells you that he does not recount. He takes back everything else that he tells you. Except for that. He never changes that story. He sticks with it. So I would like to think that it's the truth. Because he never recants it. Not recounts, recants. It's been a long week. So I think honestly his story is interesting-ish, but kind of like, because we never know for sure that it's 100% true. So I gave him a 7 for background. Affinity, again, he's a pathological liar. He tries to trick you many times. And his likes and dislikes are kind of all over the place. Like, I'm trying to remember what it was. There are some things that you will do that he doesn't like, and they make no fucking sense. I'm gonna look at the list and I'm gonna see if I can remember. I literally have this written down. I remember doing something and I was like, why is he giving me problems? What is it? He doesn't like if you help the Brotherhood of Steel, if you give them the tape. He really does not like it. He also doesn't like if you give Sturgis the data tape. Why would he not? Why? He doesn't like it doesn't make any sense to me why he gives a fuck if you give Sturgis the tape. I guess he just doesn't want you to help anyone, but the railroad, I don't know. But you would think that he, kind of like the enemy of my enemy is your friend, you would think he would tolerate the Brotherhood of Steel, at least at first, until the Brotherhood of Steel starts doing their thing, their whole sky fascist in the world of tomorrow thing. So his affinity, I give him 7, just because there's a couple things that I'm like, what? Like, no. Travel Banter. Deacon is easily the most intelligent of your possible companions. He will quote books in an appropriate way in an appropriate setting. I've caught him quoting Shakespeare, and he quoted one of the existentialists, I think. And of course, it's been a long day and I'm sick. But I know for a fact there's been a couple times where he's said quotes and I'm like, did he just... So arguably the smartest. He also has more unique lines than a lot of the other characters. Like, you go longer before a comment loops on him than most of the other people. So I did give him a 9 for Travel Banter for that. And Combat AI, he's really flexible as far as, like, versatile. Like, he's versatile, flexible. He can use a variety of weapons efficiently. He doesn't go down as easily in a fight as some of the others. So, straightforward, I give him 8 for Combat AI. He doesn't really have personal stuff outside of the railroad. So all of his personal stuff is tied to a faction. The characters who are tied to factions did not do as well in the personal category, so he got a 5 for that. Have you seen Encanto yet? I have We Don't Talk About Bruno stuck in my head, which is weird because I feel like We Don't Talk About Bruno is like the Fight Club of Disney songs. Like, I don't know. I have it stuck in my head though. And I've messed up like 3 different takes on this video because I have that stupid fucking song stuck in my head. I don't mean stupid. It's a good song, but it's stupid because I hate it because it's stuck in my head. Yeah. All right. Next up is everyone's favorite ghoul. I had to think about that for a second. I'm trying to think if there's any ghoul that people might like better. No, everybody likes Hancock the best. So Hancock is next. And I don't know how this is gonna go. I think that I was very fair with Hancock, but I know also how many people love him and how much they love him. And I will tell you now, he doesn't come in first. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. So obviously, before I sat down to do this video, I was reading my notes and I wrote the stupidest fucking thing in my notes. I wrote, used to be human in the notes. Literally had to comment on a portion about a ghoul that he used to be human. God, so stupid. But so he was human, obviously, and he became a ghoul because he took an experimental drug. And it turned him a ghoul. That's it. He was human. Took a drug. Now he's a ghoul. And of course he obviously has the long history with Diamond City, with the ghouls getting kicked out and him trying to take care of the ghouls and everything like that. So he has a pretty decently interesting background. I gave him an 8 for that. Mostly because that conversation that he has with you about all that is, I don't want to say it's hard to get to, but he likes to try to have it at times that are not great. So a lot of my playthroughs, the conversation starts and I have to back out of it because we're like getting attacked by a deathclaw. So by the time the conversation actually happens, I don't want to say confused, but it doesn't click immediately sometimes. I'll give him an 8. Yeah, 8. That's fair. All right, so next up for Hancock is affinity / romance. Now, I do want to, I don't remember if I said it early in the video already. I'm such a space cat today. A lot of the stuff is from the point of view of somebody who plays what is traditionally by most people considered a good character. And in that case, Hancock is pretty easy to please. You know, like if somebody, what is it he says, like, if somebody needs help and we help them, if somebody needs hurt and we hurt them. Right there. Right there. Super easy to figure out his likes and dislikes. There's no nasty surprises. Pretty straightforward. He's a nice guy. Likes chem use. I have a cute little, I have fanfic. I have a Fallout one. And my soul survivor does not romance Hancock, but she does have these Sundays where she goes to the top of the drive-in theater with Hancock and they just do jet and chill. And I feel like that's what I would want to do with Hancock. Like I would just want to go hang out, do jet and talk about life and shit like that. So I give him an 8 for affinity. Travel banter, he doesn't have a lot of lines. Like the lines that he has are interesting, but I feel like by the second or third time they've looped, I'm already over it. So travel banter, I give him a 7. Combat AI, Jesus Christ. I have this thing that keeps happening with Hancock where he gets taken out pretty easily. And then not only does he get taken out easily, but he like sits down and stays sitting down. Like you could be a mile up the road and he's still where he got shot down, sitting. And you try to, he's a pain in the ass. And I feel like everyone jokes about how McCready gets in your way. He does get in your way. Hancock gets stuck in your way too. Not as much, and it's not as annoying because it's Hancock. So I gave him a 7 for combat AI. His personal stuff, not particularly interesting. I like the stuff with Bobby No-Nos where you use that kind of as your way in with him. And I like that he's really super willing to forgive you as long as you apologize. Like that he is not a difficult person to get along with at all. But there's not really anything interesting about his personal stuff. Like you have his back and forth with the mayor, and I guess that's okay. I guess it's kind of interesting. I gave him a 6. Sorry, guys. So, we're halfway through. Yay, halfway mark. Woo! Woohoo! Woohoo! I don't know what that was. I don't know what the fuck that was. We're halfway through, so we're on McCready. And I have an interesting situation with McCready. So McCready reminds me of somebody I used to hang out with. I don't hang out with them anymore. And a lot of the filter that I put over McCready in the game was run through the filter of this person being my friend. And so there's a lot of affinity for McCready. So I used to, between that and then his perk, the kill shot perk, I just always took him around, like always, regardless. I would do everyone's personal stuff and then throw them in Sanctuary House and never talk to them again. Well, this playthrough, I knew I was going to have to mix it up. Couldn't just do the same McCready thing over and over and over and over again. And I tried to not run him through the filter of somebody that I knew. I tried to treat him the same way that I treat any of these other companions. And it really shifted my view on him pretty dramatically, actually. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be the same. I was not expecting what came out of this, what it turned into, what his end result, his end rating is. And his background annoys the shit out of me because, and it's not him that annoys me. It goes back to what I was talking about with the, how much relies on Fallout 3. And McCready is one of the things that relies on Fallout 3. We meet McCready as a 12-year-old kid in the Capital Wasteland of Fallout 3. He is the mayor of Little Lamplight, which is a settlement that consists of only kids. Once you turn 16, you have to leave. You go live in Big Town. So it's literally a city of children, like, and it's horrifically sad because they live next to Vault 87, which again, if you played Fallout 3, you know that Vault 87 is where they make a lot of super mutants. So McCready has grown up. He was a mayor when he was 12, and he was there he was there for at least 5 years because he was there before he was mayor. So he was there for at least 5 years. 5 years in a location where they went to bed at night hearing nothing but screams coming from the vault next door. That's gonna fuck a kid up. It's gonna fuck a kid up. I don't care what you say about McCready or whatever. If you think he's whiny or whatnot, he grew up in a situation that is gonna fuck him up a little bit. So he's not gonna be necessarily the nicest person. But that doesn't excuse a lot of the stuff that he does otherwise too. So we find out his wife and kid, his wife was killed in a metro station, and he got the kid Duncan away and got him out, and he managed to save him. So there's that. So I gave him an 8 for background. Yeah, I'll stick with 8. Affinity. In my quest to play this slightly more neutrally, and like making the list of things he likes and doesn't like, he's not really a nice person. Like, doing things that most people would consider to be good is not how you're going to get on his good side. He likes it when you steal. He likes it when you're sarcastic or mean. I mean, he doesn't want you to murder people, but he doesn't really like when you're nice either. Right? I guess he doesn't really like it if you're mean. He likes it when you're sarcastic. He likes it when you threaten people successfully. He likes when you pickpocket. He likes this tells you when you do the devil's due with the egg and the deathclaw. He likes it if you take the deathclaw egg to the nest, put it in the nest, and then take it back. Thus pissing off the deathclaw. He likes that. He wants you to keep the beer buddy guy. He wants you to keep the Vault 80. Oh God. This pisses me off to no end, and I don't know if it was an oversight or if they did it on purpose or what. His personal mission, and we'll talk again about this later, is to get the one existing cure for the disease that his son has. If you complete Vault 81 and you give the one existing cure to Austin, MacReady dislikes this. He wants you to keep the cure for yourself. I hate that. I hate that so fucking much. I don't know if they, like I said, I don't know if they overlooked it or if they did it on purpose, but fuck that. I gave him 6 for affinity. Travel Banter, he's boring. I go for a drink. Come to think of it, I have. He talks about drinking and cigarettes, and he just wants caps. He complains about his socks being wet, his boots being wet. And I have to remind myself that he's still a child. He's 22. He's 22 years old. So he's still a kid. So I feel like a certain degree of immaturity is to be expected from him. So I did so 6. I gave him a 6 for Travel Banter because I feel like I'm traveling with a child, really, more than anything. Oop. Combat AI. He is inconsistent. No, he's he's consistent, but he's unremarkable. So he's not the person I'm like, oh, I have to go to this place where I know the fight's going to be really tough. He's not the first person that pops into my head. I'm not like, oh, let me go swap out so-and-so for MacReady. Is not anything I'm ever going to utter in a case like that. He tends to get in the way a lot, especially doorways. So that annoys me to no end because you can't make them move. It's not like in Dragon Age Inquisition or in any of the Dragon Age games. If somebody gets in your way, you can just switch to be that person and move. Yeah, no. So combat AI, I gave him a 6, I think. Yeah. Personal stuff. His mission pisses me off. Yeah, his mission pisses me off. The fact that he wants you to not do the same thing for Austin that he wants you to do for him. I gave him 6 for personal stuff. I hate doing eyeliner. Alright, next up, Nick Valentine. Now, I want to preface this by saying I love Nick Valentine. Calm down. Despite some of the things that I'm going to say about him, I do like him. You're allowed to be critical of things that you like. And he definitely has his share of flaws. All the characters do, but he does especially, I think. His background is really cool. He is a pre-war cop detective whose memories and everything were plopped into a synth body. So he has pre-war memories, but post-war experiences. And it's an interesting little, like, he'll talk about stuff. Like, he talks about his nemesis, Eddie Winter, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember him. So it's kind of neat to have a character who kind of knows what you're going through mentally, kind of knows the same things. I think his background is one of the best. Quite frankly, Without rambling too much more about it, I gave him a 9 for background. From the perspective of somebody who plays a character that most people would probably consider good, he is great affinity-wise. Like, he is so happy to make happy. He is so easy to make happy. Like, he just wants to help people. He wants to help anyone. He wants to help you. He wants to help Diamond City. And he will put stuff on hold, his own personal stuff on hold to help you. Like, he really wants to get Eddie Winter, but honestly, like, your thing, like, you getting Sean comes first with him, and I think that's really cool. He doesn't like stealing. He likes hacking. He likes lockpicking. He likes things that I feel are practical for the situation. So I gave him an 8 for affinity. Travel banter. So his travel banter isn't bad. It's just super repetitive and not always interesting. Like, I feel like somebody who has that depth of experience should have better travel banter, but he doesn't. So for his travel banter, he got only a 7. Combat AI. This is where I get real critical of our boy real fast. So, kind of a step like backwards, sideways. Nick Valentine, like I said, is crucial to the main storyline. You have to find him before you can find out anything about Kellogg, before you can go to Fort Hagen. And they really push you to take him to Fort Hagen. They also really push you to take him to Far Harbor, like I said. And he's got his whole thing with Dima there. And I'm totally okay from a story perspective taking Nick Valentine to those places. Where I have the problem is that he doesn't have the combat AI to back that up. Like, they really want you to take him, but they don't make him the best person to take. I have, and this is across different games, so I know it's not like a bug in one game. I have plays across different playthroughs where you could be up against a giant hermit crab and he wants to pistol whip the thing. Nick, I cannot have you pistol whipping a giant hermit crab that lives in a bus. That makes no sense. Why are you doing that? And he does it not just in Fort, he does it everywhere, and it's like, fuck would you do? I don't know if it's an error. I mean, I guess it could technically, no, because I've talked to other people that have the same problem about him wanting to pistol whip everything, and he doesn't want to use anything but that pistol. Like, you can give him a good rifle, he wants to use the pistol, which is kind of cool. It goes with his little like retro, like, you know, detective noir or whatever. But his combat AI makes me not want to take him like anywhere. So I gave him a 5. Personal mission is really cool. I think with the Eddie Winter, with the holotapes, it is easy to do a good significant portion of it, whether you're with him or not. Missions like McCready's, he has to be with you and you have to build up that rapport, and then he will ask you to do it. But you can go off and get the Eddie Winter holotapes anytime. You could, if you wanted to, get all of the holotapes before you even recruit Nick. And then you just have to trigger the conversation and be like, oh, I already have these. Now, you do need him for one of the tapes. But otherwise, you can do most of the legwork for his mission, whether he's with you or not, which is kind of nice, because when you have 13 companions, if you include Dogmeat, it starts to get tough to have all of them around with you enough time to get all their shit done. So his personal stuff I did give a 7. So next up is Piper. Piper, I have a love-hate relationship with. I love when companions give you cute little nicknames. So I think it's cute that she calls you Blue, because that's the sort of nickname that I would give somebody, I think. Her background isn't super interesting. I mean, she has the thing with her dad, and like her dad helped the settlers and everything like that. And then she is a investigative reporter in Diamond City, and she's trying to look into everything with the synths and stuff like that. So her background isn't super, it's not super great. It's kind of beige as far as the actual background is concerned. Like, she gets more interesting once you meet her. So her background, I gave her a 5. Please don't be mad. I gave her a 5. Affinity, she is another one of those characters that's actually super easy to make happy. Like, she wants you to help people. She wants you to be nice to people. She doesn't want you to kill people, etc, etc, etc. So for Affinity, I gave her a 7 for that. So, travel banter. Again, like I said, I think it's cute that she calls you Blue. She doesn't have a lot of different lines. She doesn't, especially, you know, compared to somebody like Deacon. But she actually has some pretty interesting insight. She'll give you advice on targets that you're fighting. She's one of the characters who will, you know, like tell you like, oh, like with the Mirelurks, she'll tell you to shoot it in the face. And she actually is tougher. She's tougher than even some of the other characters. I feel like I have more of a trouble with McCready getting knocked out easily than she does. So for her combat AI, I gave her a 7. Her personal stuff kind of makes me mad, because her personal stuff, it deals with a lot of self-doubt, and that's not the part that makes me irritated. But I don't understand the fact that you can recruit her and she just leaves Nat in Diamond City, like just leaves her, and she can talk to you about like decisions to make with Nat, and like, you know, if she should, you know, be distant or if she should be closer to her. And no matter what you pick, Nat still stays in Diamond City, and I hate that. I really hate that. So I gave her a 6 for that. All right. Preston Garvey's next. I want to start this out by saying I actually don't dislike Preston. Everyone's like, oh, settlement building. Oh my god, another settlement. First of all, that is easy XP. I've had days where I haven't wanted to actually go and do quests, but I'll spend like the better part of an afternoon on a settlement and go up like 3 levels. And sometimes that helps because there's a couple perks that I need just to like 1 up of. So I don't hate the settlements. What I do hate in relation to the settlement is it's actually really kind of difficult for me to recruit him. So like, his background is he's with the Minutemen, and they're having some trouble. The numbers are dwindling. They've had people stab them in the back and betray them. They've had, you know, raiders, gunners, and basically he's dedicated his life to this, and he's down to 5 people, and he's not in a great place because of that. I wouldn't be in a great place if I was him with that. So I gave him 7 for the background. Unfortunately, Affinity, he's a time-sensitive recruitment, and I hate that. I hate when game companies do that. So you can only recruit him at certain times. Like, it'll tell you like, oh, he's available to be your companion or to be your follower, but you can't actually recruit him except for specific times. And that annoys me, because I would love to travel around with him and get to know him a little bit better of a character, instead of just having kind of like this husk of a generalization that I have to go on because I've had to like watch YouTube videos and stuff like that. So honestly, his Affinity annoys me enough that I gave him a 5. His travel banter is not super great. It doesn't suck, but it's not super great. He doesn't have as much insight as some of the other characters. He's definitely not funny. He just seems like a really nice guy who knows that you're doing your best and he's doing his best. So I was nice and gave him a 6. Combat AI, I don't really like the laser muskets, and he really likes his laser muskets. So he's just, when it comes down to it, he's just not the best to take combat-wise. He's beige. So I gave him a 6 for combat AI. He is one of the characters whose personal everything is tied into a faction. That didn't help him. I honestly gave him a 4 for the personal stuff. Next up is my boy Strong. Strong being the civil super mutant of Fallout 4. Fallout 3 we had Fox. New Vegas we had Lily. Of course Lily is technically a Nightkin, so it's slightly different, but you get the idea. Strong is the one that we get for Fallout 4. And Strong is actually not only civil, but he's pretty intelligent. Fox, we don't really get any sign that he's necessarily intelligent per se. He's just nice and wants to help people, and he's not super aggressive like all of the rest of the super mutants. But Strong, we notice an actual intelligence. And if you progress the main storyline to the point where you have to go to Virgil's lab in the Institute, if you go to his records and you read through his experiments, you will notice that there is a super mutant that they made out of a man who is highly intelligent and not aggressive, and they set it loose on the Commonwealth. They literally let a super mutant out of their laboratory and just set him loose on the Commonwealth. Well, we have Strong. And he doesn't have a super interesting background. Like, I do like the fact that he's, you know, intelligent or whatever. I like the fact, though, that he's an Institute super mutant. I didn't do as much research as I probably should have. To have him come from the Institute, and then you take him to talk to Virgil later, and he has unique dialogue with Virgil. So I just really like that they really drove it home that that's him. So I actually was probably a little bit too generous. And I gave him a 7 for background. I meant to write 7. I'm stupid. I gave him a 7 for background. Affinity. Not exactly what I would expect out of a super mutant. And a lot of the stuff that he does or likes or dislikes, it will explain. So he talks about how super mutants are brothers and you help your brothers. Okay, yeah. He likes it when you help settlements. He, I believe, likes it when you give Austin the cure. McCready doesn't even like it when you give Austin the cure, but Strong does. Let me look that up before I start. Well, let me get this fucking eyelash on, though, before it dries to my finger. Oh my god. Yay. Nope, didn't do it right. There we go. I literally have not done non-magnetic eyelashes in months. Anyway, no, I'm supposed to look up. He likes it when you give Austin, the super mutant likes when you give Austin the cure, and McCready doesn't. I think that is where I was the most baffled. Strong likes it when you eat people. He likes cannibalism. He literally, when Austin becomes an adult, he'll be fine with you eating him. But as a child, gotta help him. Baffles me. He actually, though, I was reading up on different forums and stuff like that. He is generally considered to be the most difficult to max out affinity, especially if you don't go the cannibalism route. I tried it once with the cannibalism route and it was pretty easy. But if you have to, like, he he likes it when you help people. He likes fighting, and he likes fighting big stuff. So he likes fighting Deathclaws and other super mutants and behemoths and hermit crabs and all that shit. He likes big, tough fights. Doesn't like lockpicking. Doesn't like hacking. Like let me see if I can, let me pull up this form again. This paper. I just lost my place. He doesn't like when you heal Dogmeat. He doesn't like it when you have a speech success. Doesn't like when you use power armor. Doesn't like when you take Billy home. Doesn't like when you steal. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if you are playing the type of character that most people would consider a good character. He's really difficult. Like, I had to trouble with him for probably a good 10 levels, maybe even 15 levels to get him to max affinity. And that is annoying as shit. But I think it's easy to figure out, though. He's one of the easy ones to figure out. You figure out quickly, okay, he doesn't like this, he doesn't like this. Once you figure it out, it's easy. So I gave him 7 for affinity. The travel chat, oh my god. So his travel banter is actually wicked useful. He has a lot of insight on tactical stuff that you wouldn't expect from a super mutant whose attitude is just like kill everything. Like he'll tell you he's one of the people who will tell you to shoot the Mirelurks in the face. Like he understands things like structural weaknesses and stuff like that. So that's cool. That's fucking cool. So, and he'll comment too on human like things that people do. And honestly, and it's kind of I was talking to a friend the other day about it. Some of the things that he says are more human than things that the human companions say. So I actually gave him an 8 for travel banter, which is weird because I wasn't expecting to rate a super mutant that high on something like that. I almost did this eyelash correctly, but you can't tell. It looks right. As long as it looks right, right? Oh boy. Not bad for the first time in months. Anyway, so we're still on Strong's combat AI. So he has the second highest hit points. Second only to Robot Kiri. So he's really, really, really valuable as far as taking somebody with you that you're... I've had to stim-pack across... I've had this game for 6 years now. I've had to stim-pack him twice, ever. Like, he's a heavy-duty fighter. The only problem is that he doesn't sneak. He never sneaks. Everybody else, even Dance in his fucking power armor, sneaks. But Strong doesn't. Granted, when it's you and a super mutant charging at somebody, they're gonna notice the super mutant before you anyway, so that it is possible to still get like the sneak critical chances. But you have to keep in mind for that in exchange for the tank isn't gonna sneak. So for his combat AI, what did I give him for combat AI? I gave him 7 for combat AI. And personal stuff is just the milk of human kindness and discovering that it's not real. It's not an actual drink. He thought it was an actual drink. Oops. 5. All right, one more, and that's X688. Of course, X688 being the synth courser companion from the Institute. Fuck the Institute. Fuck the Institute. So, I actually like X688 considering his background obviously isn't super interesting because he's the Institute courser, but I do like the fact that he is so ingrained in the Institute storyline. So he's not a requirement. You can blow the Institute up without ever meeting him, but he is critical if you want to pursue the Institute's line. And the problem that I have with his recruitment, his background recruitment, is his beginning default location is really hard to find. And the problem with where he is that, oh, I have lipstick on my teeth, is that, oh shit, is that, you can't see it now, is that he will stop what he's doing if there's any Brotherhood of Steel around him, and he will start fighting them. So, like the last couple of times I've gone to go get him, it takes 15 minutes to even get started on the quest because he's too busy shooting it out with the Brotherhood of Steel, and he is essential, so he can't be killed by the Brotherhood of Steel. So they just shoot at each other for 15 minutes, and I'm sitting here like this, waiting to go get this guy from Libertalia, or whatever it's called, the ship donut. And I hate recruiting him, so I give him a 6 for that. Affinity is interesting. He's actually pretty straightforward. He likes when you help the Institute. He doesn't help if you like it's not hard to figure out if he is going to like or dislike what you're about to do. It's straightforward. I give him a 7. Travel banter. He's funny as fuck. I honestly think some of it is he has a very flat affect. So he'll say things that maybe might not be as interesting if like Deacon said them, but like if you read a comic book, he's like, oh, what have you learned reading that magazine for children? Oh, I wrote it down. I won't ask why you're reading a book meant for children. About comics. Any comic that you read, including the comics that you actually like learn something from. Like if you read the stealth operations, he says the same thing. And he just says a lot of I think a lot of it is the affect. He says things, and he's there, but there's sarcasm in there though. Like he's got the flat affect, but he's witty and sarcastic. He's actually really funny. He's as funny as Deacon, I think, if you could put up with the rest of it. So I gave him a 9 for party banter. I gave him the same score as Deacon. I forgot to do under my eye. I knew something was wrong. I was looking at it in the camera and I was like, what is it? What's that? Combat AI. So he got a ding under the combat AI because of what I mentioned earlier, where he will stop what he's doing. You could be in the middle of a big fight, and if Brotherhood of Steel goes by, he's gonna stop what he's doing and go fuck them up. So he's one of the companions that I would say be aware of where you're about to go. Like if you know you're gonna go by Cambridge, don't take X688 because it's not gonna go well. It's just gonna turn into a big firefight. And you'll be sitting there for a while. Whereas some locations, like especially like the southern part of the map, like gunners, take him to go fight the gunners. Let him go ham on the gunners. He would enjoy that. And actually do a good job at it. But because he is annoying and will stop, I gave him a 5 for combat AI. And he is one of the characters whose personal everything is tied up in one of the faction lines. So for personal stuff, I gave him a 5. All right, it's time for the final scores. All right, some of these you're going to be happy with, some of these you're not. You don't have to agree with them. This is just my personal rating system. There were 3 instances of ties. The way I reconcile a tie is I look at the spread in points, like what the average score was. The character with the most consistent scores would win the tie, and if there was still a tie after that, which there was in 2 cases, I picked the winner was whoever had the strongest combat AI and travel banter. So basically the best travel companion. So in first place with 38 points is Paladin Dance. And that hurts me to say, but Paladin Dance. Second place with 36 points, and the most consistent with 36 points is Hancock. Third place, also with 36 points, but less consistent, is Deacon. In fourth place, also with 36 points, but with the widest spread in scores and thus far the least consistent, is Nick. In fifth place with 34 points is Strong. There was another tie after that. In sixth place with 33 points, but a more consistent score, is Kate. In seventh place with 33 points, but a broader spread, is X688. Eighth place with 32 points, but the most consistent, is McCready. Ninth place with 32 points, but not as consistent, is Piper. 10th place, also with 32 points, but with the widest spread between highest and lowest, is Kiri. 11th place with 28 points is Preston. So that leaves in 12th place with 27 points, Codsworth. What do you think? Does this line up with what you were expecting? Is this completely am I completely off my rocker? Maybe. Let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments.